Running the floor, Embiid stuffs it. Harden for three. James Harden with his second triple.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Pick Swap Podcast. I'm here with a special guest today, Jaden Hardy, who's the head coach of the LeagueIgnite. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing? Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to talk to you. Very impressive background. A guy who's a 9-year NBA veteran, played for the Spurs, the Kings, the Jazz, and the Nuggets, has coached just about every level of basketball, including AAU, high school, the college level at Pepperdine and USC, and then taking over at the LeagueIgnite. So how has the transition been taking over in the G League in that kind of coaching situation?
Well, it's been, the transition I think has been pretty easy, being that I was a college coach and you get an opportunity to coach kids that's the same age as the college young men that I coach. I think it made it real easy. And then also these kids are, they have big dreams of becoming NBA basketball players. And so that made the transition easy. They work really hard and they're very great young men.
Nice. Yeah, that's one of kind of the interesting facets about it to me is kind of at the college level, it seems like there's so much just focus on like the team built and everything that goes along with the culture and everything. And the LeagueIgnite is kind of a clean slate for building that. I think that's something that's cool that you're playing a role in. How difficult is it kind of balancing the individual development of these players versus the team aspect as well?
Well, we play each game to win. Let's make that point very clear. But I also know that we're no different from an NBA team trying to develop the young talent. I think at the end of the day, with our front office, me being in line with the front office and understanding the process of trying to get these young men drafted, it's easy because we know at the end of the day, we want to see our players get drafted and we want to see them get drafted really high.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you got a couple of very impressive guys that I want to get into this year. The first guy I'll jump into talking about is Dyson Daniels. Obviously, a very unique and cool player. 6'7", very impressive defender, very high IQ player. He's a guy that I think when you're kind of scouring through the draft prep, looking at the highlights, I don't think the highlights really do justice to the game that he's playing. So what are kind of the things that maybe don't jump out on tape that he really excels at?
Well, I know it does. It's his defense. He's a 6'7" guard with a tremendous defensive instincts. He has a knack for getting over ball screens defensively. He moves his feet. He's a good one-on-one individual defender. And with his size and his length and his age, that makes him attractive to a lot of NBA teams. And he's a good team defender, too. And then you sprinkle in that he's 6'7". He rebounds really well for his position. He's a ball mover, and his shot is getting better. So that makes him a high-level talent for this upcoming draft.
Yeah, definitely. I love the way he plays in transition. Very high IQ with the passing he makes, always looking ahead. The biggest red flag with Daniels is obviously that shooting, and that's something that I'm sure he's working hard on. What's your confidence level you think that can improve at the NBA level?
Yeah, I think it will improve. That's for every player in the NBA, though. From stars on down. Shooting is always the last thing that you develop because you get used to that NBA three-point line. But I wouldn't say it's a red flag. I would just say it's a 19-year-old that's not 21 yet that has to get in the gym and just continue to get reps. So, and that goes for all young players across the NBA. The shooting always comes last.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of one of the things that I think is so difficult about this draft prospect for all these guys is everything's being looked at under such a tight microscope.
Right.
Each game is examined so highly, which really is not fair to these players when you kind of take it as a whole. To transition a little bit, the next guy I want to get into is Jaden Hardy. And this is a guy that the Sixers have shown a decent amount of interest in. Another very talented player, a guy that can fill up the scoring sheet, has a nice bag of scoring, can do a little bit of everything. What do you like about Jaden Hardy's game at the NBA level?
I like that he's fearless. I think one thing about him, he's a throwback basketball player to where if he missed 2 or 3 shots in a row, it doesn't deter his confidence. And he has a high-level ability to get a shot off using his dribble. And so those are two things that you have to have mindset-wise to make it in the NBA. And I think he excels in those already.
Yeah, definitely. He's a guy that was obviously the number 2 recruit going into this year. I think it's perceived as kind of a more poor season than I think the reality is. I think there's a lot that he did very well this year, and he definitely particularly came on strong toward the end of the season, saw some improvements and kind of making that leap. Do you think part of it was just getting kind of adjusted to the G League level and making that transition?
Yeah, it was just getting adjusted to the transition of becoming a pro, understanding what he was good at, what he's not, and then having the ability to adjust and adapt. And I thought he started to figure out as the season went on.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say you think his best kind of long-term fit in the NBA is from a positional standpoint? Obviously, he's a guy that can score the basketball, handle the rock. What do you think? Is he more of a ball-dominant guard, or do you think off-ball is a good shooting spot for him as well?
Well, I think he's a ball in hand two guard where he doesn't you got to create for him, but he can create for himself and his teammates. So I see him being as a scoring combo guard in the NBA with a long career once he puts it all together.
That's awesome. And another prospect I want to get into who's a very interesting story and a guy that I personally have come to really like is MarJon Beauchamp. So definitely a unique story in terms of a guy that took a little bit of a gap after high school, started to do his NBA prep, ended up at community college for a year, and then obviously found his way to the LeagueIgnite. So Beauchamp, a very impressive defender, super long, 7'1" wingspan. I love the way he's kind of able to just kind of swallow up smaller players when he defends them. To me, I think that's very cool the way he does that. Also, some shooting concerns there, but something that I personally think are talked about too much, and I'm more confident in his offensive ability that I think kind of the consensus is. But tell me what you like best about Beauchamp's game and how you think he projects.
I think he projects as a 3-and-D individual. He has length. He's a great athlete, and he shows flashes that he can be he's going to be a good offensive player as well. I think the one thing that he brings to an NBA team today is his ability to score without the ball. He knows how to cut really well, gets out in transition, and find ways to impact his team without having plays called for him.
Yeah, definitely. That cutting ability to me is something that kind of has jumped out to me. And he's a guy that I feel like doesn't need the ball a ton to still have a high impact on the offensive end, which is a very important asset when kind of building a team, and something that I think it takes takes a while for guys to get. So especially in transition, I've been impressed with. He's a guy that obviously is not afraid to rise up and dunk on you. Do you think transition would kind of be the best aspect of his offensive game, or do you think there's other things that aren't talked about as much as well?
Well, these young men, they can do so much more, but when you becoming a pro, you have to do what they want to see you do. And I think as these continue to grow and get better, his shooting will, I think everything will line up to him being, I think, a starter, once everything comes together.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. He's a guy that I personally am a big fan of and would love to see that. A guy that kind of hasn't got enough really talk in the kind of pre-draft process and buzz is Michael Foster, who obviously a guy that kind of has more of a second round label, and but somebody that I think NBA teams kind of aren't talking about enough. So tell me about his game and what teams are potentially missing there.
Well, I think people are just missing. Like he averaged 17 points and 8 rebounds. He's a do-it-all forward, big. He can handle, pass, and shoot. For whatever reason, I don't think he's getting talked about enough. I think he's going to be one of the top sleepers in the draft. I think when people really get him and whoever drafts him, see what type of talent he is, I think they're going to know that they got to steal.
Yeah, definitely. A guy that was the number 7 ranked recruit in that same class. A very appealing skill set, and a guy that can do a little bit. I see some pick and pop potential, a guy that can roll to the basket. I think some of the concerns come on the defensive end. Do you think that he's capable of kind of holding up the defensive end? And where do you think kind of like the too much is read into and kind of the negatives on his defense?
Yeah, it's way too much read into it. I mean, you get the picking to justify why you don't like him, but every young player in the NBA has to adjust to defense. Mm-hmm. It goes from LeBron to Steph Curry when they was rookies. Everybody has to adjust. So I think people pick into it too much, but he will grow into being a very good player, just a matter of time.
Yeah, definitely. So very cool to kind of see the path to the NBA for all these guys. How cool is it being kind of a part of their journey from like start to finish for you?
It's rewarding and cool just to see that all the hard work they put in, the time, the dedication that they gave to their dreams and goals. And now we are here, just to support them, and we can't wait. We're super excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. And last question for you. when looking at kind of the college path versus the G League route, what would you say is an aspect of kind of the G League Ignite specifically that you think prepares these guys better than the average kind of college prospect?
Or just them going through the fire of playing against NBA level talent, learning the NBA game, it's the 24-second shot clock, and being challenged day in and day out versus their opponent. I think that's an invaluable experience, and those guys stepped up to the plate and did a good job.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Coach, I don't want to take up too much of your time, so thanks so much for jumping on with me. It'll be exciting to see where all these guys land in the draft, and there's plenty of fun stuff to watch with the G League Ignite coming next season. So everybody make sure to tune for that, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, brother.